Hi there, Emily Midget here with you today for 6th Street Sundries, and today I am excited to share a new project using the New Beginnings stamp set that I illustrated for Crafty Meraki's 2nd anniversary. I was really honored when Bindu asked me to illustrate a set for their anniversary, and she wanted me to incorporate a butterfly into it, so I was really excited to try my hand at something a little bit new for me. So I've got the New Beginnings stamp set and the frame-worthy dies, which are both from Crafty Meraki. They're both available in their store. And then I'm going to use the OLO markers. These markers, I've created a kind of a swatch chart, which you can find on my blog, and these are the markers that I'm going to end up using for my projects today. So now I'm just going to stamp the New Beginnings image using my favorite no-line coloring ink from Hero Arts. It's called Contour ink, and I use it for both watercolor, no-line watercolor, and for no-line alcohol ink coloring. And I'm going to be using the OLO markers for my project today. They are a really great alternative to other alcohol ink markers on the market. They're brand new. They are still in the pre-order phase, but they color beautifully. They color like butter. They're super, super smooth. And you can see that this image is very small and detailed, and all of my images are very detailed. I like to add lots of details so that you can put as much into the coloring as you want, or just kind of do some simple coloring and still get the idea of the movement and flow of the flowers themselves. But these markers, I'm doing no line coloring, so that takes a little bit more attention to detail, and you can tell how nicely these get into those teeny little nooks and crannies. So I am coloring these cosmos. They're kind of it's kind of a begonia pink. And they blend beautifully. I'm starting with no line coloring. I like to start with the petals that are behind the petals on top. I like to start with the petals that are kind of in the background. And that way I am able to kind of give myself a little bit better guide on how light to make the top petals. So I start with the darkest petals first. I work with my darkest marker and make sure that I have that contrast of the dark versus the light. The dark is the area with the shadows. The light is the area on top closest to the light source. So you can see how easily these markers blend. I like to work from dark to light with my alcohol markers. I lay down the darkest area first, and then I kind of flip my paper around and push that color out with that dark color out with the next lightest color, and then just work my way down my ombre marker spectrum, the markers that I've selected. So you can see that these blend super smoothly and very quickly. There's not a whole lot of time needed to sit there and just scrub the color to work together, to blend smoothly together. But it's they're easy to work with. So if you haven't checked out the OLO markers, I'll have a link in my profile. They're on sale right now. They're on pre-order sale right now, I believe until the beginning of July. So you can check those out. But so you'll notice that I am rotating the paper constantly when I'm coloring. I lay down the color, the darkest color first, and then I rotate my paper so that I am able to push that color away from me and keep the tip of my marker pointing away from me. I find that I get really good control over where the color is going if I have that tip of that marker pointing away from me, because I can see better exactly where the tip of that marker is going. So now for these little lilac bunches that I have on the flower bunch, I'm going to do some very simple shading. These are very tiny images. There's not a whole lot of room to really work into the shadows and depth here. So I'm coloring all of the images with the lightest shade first, and then I'm going back in with my darker shade, my darker of the two markers, and adding just little touches of shadow on the areas that are cupped petals. I'm adding some shadow on the areas that are behind, petals that are behind, and then I'll go back in with the light marker again, and I'll just blend those out. Just very simple, not a whole lot of scrubbing or movement required. The alcohol ink, the colors of the alcohol ink work beautifully together to kind of smooth themselves out organically. So next we're going to work on the foliage. This, I have 4 different shades of green marker that all work very nicely together, and we're going to use, for the larger foliage pieces, we're going to use all 4 of the markers. So for those large leaves, we're going to use all 4 markers to get lots of depth and shadow and shape for those leaves. For the smaller foliage, the smaller kind of multi-leaf sprigs, we're going to use just 3 markers. So for this one, again, I'm working from dark to light. I'm starting with my darkest area first, the area that would be kind of tucked underneath the flowers, the areas that would have the most shadow. I start with that section first, lay down my darkest color, and work my way to my lightest color, pushing that color out away from me. I find that I get a really smooth blend with that combination of steps. So now we're moving on to the smaller foliage, which are, I'm going to use just the lighter 3 markers. We don't need that super, super dark marker. We're trying to get a little bit of differentiation in the color between the 2, because they would be 2 different colors in nature. So these are more of a light minty green. So now, since we did some no line coloring, it's covered up some of those detail lines, like the antenna on the butterfly. So what I'm doing is I have a black pigment marker, I believe it's a micron marker, and I'm just going in, there's a pen, I'm sorry, not a micron pen, and I'm going in and I am filling in where those antenna would be. I like to have multiple, if I'm going to use black, I want it in multiple spots. I've got black on the butterfly, I've got black on the pink flowers around the centers of the flowers, and now I've got the black stamens in the butterfly. Or, I'm sorry, stamens, the antenna on the butterfly. So now we're going to do some fussy cutting. I don't know if there are coordinating dies for this or not, but if there are, I'll link to them below. I'm using my super sharp scissors to do some fussy cutting, and I am doing my best to move the paper and not my scissors. This is my best trick for fussy cutting evenly and creating that nice white edge around. You can always go right up to the edge of your colored image, but I like to have that little white area just to keep me from cutting too deeply into my colored image. So there's our finished colored image. Now we're going to work on the card base. I just wanted something simple that allowed those really bright flowers to be the star of the show, the bright flowers and the pretty butterfly to really be the star of the show. So I have a slimline card base that is a 3.5 inch by 8.5 inch card base, and I am using the frame-worthy dies. I die cut a frame-worthy die, and I had an A2 piece of cardstock on my desk, so I just used that and cut a partial. The frame die that I used was a little bit longer, but it doesn't matter because we're going to cover it up with the flowers anyway. So here I'm stamping a greeting from New Beginnings onto some white cardstock using black pigment ink from Altenew, and then covering it with clear embossing powder and heating that up. Now I'm going to fussy cut that again with my sharp scissors and moving the paper rather than my scissors to get a nice even edge. And now we're just going to assemble everything with some foam tape. So I did tape all of the pieces together with some washi tape on the front, flip it over, and then I add my foam tape on the back, covering some of the seams so that it all becomes one nice, easily adhered piece, so that I can easily adhere it to my front. So here's my third element of black on my floral pieces. I am adding little black dots to the interiors of my lilacs. So we've got black on the butterfly, black on the pink flowers, and black on the lilacs. So now we're going to add some sparkling gems just to add a little bit of sparkle, and then we're finished with this card. For me, there's nothing as beautiful and crisp as a bright colorful floral centerpiece with some white texture in the background to let those florals pop. So thanks so much for joining me. There is an Instagram hop happening with prizes over on Instagram for the Crafty Meraki 2nd anniversary. So I really appreciate you watching. I hope you learned something. If you like my project, maybe hit the subscribe button and give me a thumbs up. And you can check out my blog at emilymidget.com. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great day. Bye.